85 years ago, over in Europe, a war was starting. But here in the Isle of Man, a very secret process was happening. Here is Jurby Bomb Store. It's where the bombs are kept and held for planes used to train in the RAF. Not actually used for the war though. And these are the rails where the bombs were transported to the planes. This mound here was used to protect the airfield from any accidental explosions from this bomb store. Right, let's go have a look at the other features then at RAF Jurby. Off we go. We headed off further into RAF Jurby. However, there may well have been a few distractions along the way. This might just look like a concrete box, but this is actually a lot more. Can you guess what it is? So in here is a pillbox, which is very echoey. And basically, 10 of these in Jurby. So the box was used to protect the airfield, but the person in it, what protected them from bullets coming in was an anti-ricochet system, meaning that the bullets would go in and they wouldn't bounce off, meaning that the soldier would be protected. Now another very good feature about this pillbox is that the hole there is very small, meaning that soldiers can shoot out of it very easily and swivel from left to right very easily. And this was all done without threat of them being shot from enemy fire. Good old pillbox. Talk about paranoid then. Another reason these pillboxes were built was out of fear of the Germans parachuting onto the airfield, but that actually never happened. In fact, the airfield itself was never actually attacked. Now another reason why this pillbox was so protective is not just the reinforced concrete, it's actually the mounds of earth and gorse that camouflaged it from enemies above. Behind me is the island's best preserved control tower. This control tower was used to monitor the takeoffs and landings here at Jurby Airfield. Now, what's interesting about Jurby Airfield is that it was built from the rubble from the mines of Laxey and Foxdale. At the height of this airfield, it had up to 65 aircraft, and today is now a track for motorbike races. Fatalities were very common in World War II, and that's no more true than in the RAF. Here at Jurby Church, some young men who'd sadly died in aviation crashes while training at Jurby are buried here. And one thing that is interesting about this is that in the RAF, crashes on land were a lot more common than actually being struck down in dogfights or crashing in the sea. And now we're going to have a look at one of the worst crashes in Manx aviation history, 1945 on North Barrule. Let's go see. North Barrule, one of the highest peaks on the Isle of Man, as well as one of the toughest hikes in the Isle of Man. (1,840 feet above the sea level. And it turned out, hiking it in Marks and Spencer's sketches wouldn't turn out ideal. But before we headed up the slopes, there was just one quick stop to make. Where I'm standing right now was exactly where the first witness account of this crash was stood 80 years ago. His name was Harold Dennett, and at 10:20 AM on the 23rd of April 1945, Harold was working in this field as a tractor driver. And that was when over there, towards the coast, he seen a massive 4-engined aircraft, which he estimated to be flying at 500 feet. As the plane was flying over, Harold could distinctly see the American badge on the underside of the plane's wing. And what he seen over there will stay with him for the rest of his life. Let's go see it.
This moment that he knew, he f***ed up.
We may have underestimated the climb, but the view was worth it, even with soggy socks. Right here is where the plane crash happened. The plane was going from Essex to Northern Ireland. The plane was carrying 31 American soldiers, and sadly, they were all killed. It was also just a few weeks from the end of the war. Even today, this plane crash still remains the worst and most devastating crash in the Isle of Man's history. After North Barrule, I went down south for our next venture. Or should I say flight? I'm now down south from Castletown at the airport. I'm going to have a look at the Aviation Museum. So this is the flying clothing worn by a pilot who trained at RAF Jurby around 1943. And if you want to see a bomb they used to practice with, it's right here. £25 practice bomb, that is. So the bomb did not explode on impact, but it did contain a tiny amount of explosive, which means when it hit the ground, it had a little bit of light and smoke, which made it look like a real-life explosion. This is the model of the B-17 Flying Fortress, which crashed into North Barrule where we visited. And these are all 31 servicemen who were sadly killed on the 23rd of April 1945. And on that tragic day, these are some of the remains that are still left behind, even today. And this is the back of the engine of a British Spitfire that crashed over the northeast of the Isle of Man. It had a structural failure and was actually designed by Rolls-Royce, so I'm not really surprised it didn't last long. So this is the cockpit of a Bolingbroke bomber that was stationed at RAF Jurby in the Isle of Man. The gun was designed by Bofors Company in Sweden in the early 1930s and was licensed to be built in several countries. It was a 40mm, 1.57-inch lightweight weapon. Originally mounted on a four-wheeled carriage, it was capable of being towed at high speed. The gun could be fired from its wheels, but normally it was stabilised using outriggers and jacks. Its most outstanding feature was that its very efficient and reliable automatic loading mechanism, which made it capable of firing a formidable 120 rounds per minute. Normally, there would be a crew of 6. Bofors guns were used mainly as a very effective anti-aircraft gun, but increasingly, as the threat from the Luftwaffe reduced after D-Day, they were used for firing targets on the ground. It was also used to fire tracer as a guideline for infantry negotiating cleared paths in minefields. So these are some of the remains from crashed aircraft in the war period here. You got the Bristol blimey propeller and just come over here. The what? The excuse me, the retarded bomb-tailed section. I'm here with Phil Greensmith, who has some interesting stories about his father-in-law, Joe, in World War II. Can you tell us about them, please, Phil?
Joe was in the Royal Navy aboard the HMS Ark Royal. And he was on the Ark Royal when it got torpedoed by a German U-boat in 1941. I think it was about the 13th of November. There was only one personnel got killed when the Ark Royal got torpedoed. There was about 1,500 men on board there, and just one, as I say, one man got killed. It sank the day after, just off 12 miles off Gibraltar. And after that, all the men got other postings to different warships, and he got off the ship on the destroyer that came alongside. So he survived, you know.
Well, of course he obviously survived, but did you notice any specific character traits or lifelong habits after the war?
No, he was quite decent about telling me about some of the things, you know, but that sort of era when they came out of the war, I mean, my father, he was in the remit, I think they called it, in the Royal Engineers, and he was based in the English Channel. My father, he never spoke about it. He'd seen that much that he didn't want to speak about it. But they do today, though. You know, when they come out of the wars today, we tend to speak about it.
Yeah, but considering the struggles that these men went through, do you believe that the modern generation can really fully comprehend the scale of what their sacrifice was?
I think some can, in the way that they do a lot of these trips now, don't they, over to likes of the concentration camps and all that, you know, like Auschwitz and Belsen and all like that. And the people see all what's gone on with the shoes and everything. And the young ones now, I think, they think more about it than what we were taught, really, because we were sort of born just after the war, not long after. And we just thought, well, we were kids, you know.
And do you think, looking at their sacrifice now, considering the way the island is and the world is, do you think that it was all worth it?
Well, sometimes you often wonder, don't you? But the thing is, if Hitler would have won the war, if he would have got into Britain now, we probably wouldn't have been talking. Hitler it would have been a totally different place now. We've got our freedom, haven't we? We you know, to a big extent, but we're losing that freedom of speech right the way through Europe and everywhere. You know, we're just being told what to do. Yeah, I think it was different then, wasn't it? There's a lot more fear now in what goes on, you know. I mean, they can just put a missile where they want, can't they? Yeah, whereas it was foot soldiers, wasn't it, all the time, really, in them days. And the aeroplanes were just bombing and even killing their own soldiers, weren't they, all over? You know, there was no accuracy.
The absurd thing about World War II is it started 21 years after the First War, known as the Great War. A war so devastating that men were left with shell shock. I have my own personal account of this. My great-great-grandfather, Frederick, who lived with shell shock from the end of the war until his death in 1953. In a battalion of 30, my great-great-grandfather, Frederick, was only 2 to survive. Him and another soldier called Josh Pentland. My great-great-grandfather was fighting in the Battle of the Somme. He was lying in a churchyard with soldier Josh Pentland. That was when a skeleton blew out of the ground, and he proclaimed the famous lines, "Are we in hell, or where in the hell are we?" I'm Connor Tosh. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Well, I'll start again.
Already. In World War II.
Stop it now.
That was perfect.
Brilliant. Well, that was brilliant.
We've got to add these on the
I can't help it. Oh, dear me.
Oh, no. God.